I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. No one can stop me. I'm the best ever.
You are watching a master at work.
Hey everyone, welcome to Free Band Radio Podcast again. We are here, today is Mother's Day, and we are honoring all mothers who have been victims or their children have been victims of police brutality. So today we are here with the mother of Eric Garner. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Eric Garner. I'm sorry, I'm not Eric, I am Eric Garner, but I'm Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner.
Absolutely. Okay. And so basically, a lot of people do know the story of Eric Garner, but I wanted to hear it from your eyes since you are the mother of Eric Garner. I know a lot of us had to witness his untimely murder on national TV. So basically, just take us back to that day when you first received the phone call.
Yeah, that day was a very horrible day. I received the phone call when I turned my phone on. I was at work. I work for New York City Transit, where I drive a train from Coney Island to Astoria Boulevard. Well, that day when I turned my phone on, my phone was blowing up. And when I answered the phone, it was someone telling me that something had happened to Eric. They didn't really know what had happened because they had just received the phone call. Okay, that made me anxious, but then another person called me, told me the same information. Nobody had first-hand information, but I was just very nervous at that point of what could have happened to my son. So I called my husband and told him, when I get back to Coney Island, I want you to be there because I want you to take me home because I want to find out what happened to Eric. I told him to make a few phone calls to see if he could find out any information. Well, when I got back to Coney Island, my husband was there at the dispatcher's office waiting for me. And I asked him, why was he upstairs? Because you're not allowed in the dispatcher's office. You have to wait for me to come downstairs. He said, oh, it's okay. I talked to them, they let me come up. Which he had already known about my son's death, but I didn't know yet. So when I got downstairs, I just kept asking him, what did you hear? Did you hear anything? What's going on? And he said, well, we're going to go to the hospital. Only thing I know, he's in the hospital. I said, why is he in the hospital? What's wrong with him? But he says, just get in the car and fasten your seatbelt, and we're on our way to Staten Island. So when I got in the car, the phone rang, and when he answered the phone, when he got off the phone, he just didn't sound right. And I says, well, what's going on with Eric? And so then he says, we're going to the hospital. He was trying not to tell me until we got to Staten Island. But, I just kept on, aggravating him. And, I got so irritated till he just had to break down and tell me that Eric was no longer with us. Well, at that moment, when he told me that, I think I practically lost my mind. I sort of blacked out, but I remember trying to kick the windshield out, trying to open the door. But he had the child safety lock on where I couldn't get out the door. And I just felt like if I could get out that door, I could run to Staten Island faster than I could get there in that car, which I know that was impossible. But that's just the way I felt. I felt like my child needed me. If I could get there, I could change things. He wouldn't be dead. It's just all kind of things was running through my mind. Well, when I got there, I was in such a bad way, so they wouldn't even let me at the hospital. They made my husband take me home, and I was just in a dark place. I was just out of my mind for a while.
Wow. And so let me ask, so when did you see the footage? I remember when I saw the footage, I just got extremely angry. Did you see the footage before social media saw the footage, or did you see it just like everyone else?
Well, yes and no. What happened is all the reporters kept knocking at my door, and they kept trying to get in, and I told my husband and my brother-in-law I didn't want to talk to nobody, I didn't want to see nobody. I didn't know exactly what had happened, but at that moment it didn't matter what happened. All I knew is that my child was dead. So I didn't want to talk to anybody. But then my brother-in-law said, well, Gwen, we need to talk to somebody, talk to one reporter, and tell him, you know, like if he interview us, tell him we want him to tell our story, right? So lo and behold, we did let the right reporter in, which was the Daily News. And the Daily News, they came and interviewed all the family. And then as he went to walk to the door, he says, I have an exclusive. He says the whole incident was caught on camera. So I said, well, so that sort of perked me up a little. And so I said, really? He says, yeah, at 5 in the morning, it will be in the Daily News frame by frame. And at 7 a.m., it will be on, on the news. Well, he did tell, and he showed us a little bit, but something was going wrong with his phone, so we only could see little bits, which I really didn't look, but my husband and my brother-in-law, they was looking, but they could see little bits and pieces of what he had. So he said, but you'll see it in the morning. And he said the young man who took it, we have him put up in, we have him under protection in the hotel. And sure enough, the next morning, it was on TV. It was in the newspaper, as they said, frame by frame, because my brother-in-law brought it down. We live in the same complex. And when I seen that, I just threw a fit.
Oh, I'm sure.
Then, when it came on TV at 7 o'clock, as he promised, I never could look at the whole thing in its entirety.
I'm sure, yes.
So, every time I think about that day, it's just such a horrible, horrible thing. And I had just spoke to him just before I went to work. I hadn't heard from him in a couple of days, and we always speak to each other every other day, maybe every 2 days. And when I did get him that morning, I asked him why hadn't I heard from him. And he reminded me, he said, remember Ma, I told you I was going to Baltimore. He was going down there with his wife to the family reunion. And I reminded him that, don't forget, we're having a family reunion on Saturday. He says, I didn't forget. He said, what would you like me to bring? And I told him to bring soda and water because we had everything else. Never dreaming that would be our last conversation. We said our goodbyes. He said, love you, Ma. I said, love you too, Eric, because this is the way we always ended our conversations, me and my children. And instead of that Saturday having a family reunion, we was having a rally in Staten Island because of his death.
So, take me back to the time where I know you mentioned that trying to get justice for Eric Garner, you were arrested just trying to bring awareness to the whole injustice.
So tell us about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we knew that President Trump was going to install a Supreme Court Justice Gossett. But we knew with the track record that Gossett had that he wouldn't be for us. We knew that we would not get justice or the justice that we deserved as a people. So we were protesting that. We were there earlier that day. In fact, earlier that day, I was actually downtown Manhattan on 14th Street at a book signing for Sabrina Fulton, Trayvon Martin's mother. I was there and I left the book signing and went to the rally in front of Trump Tower where we were rallying to protest the installation of Supreme Court Justice, Gossett. And so they were telling us to get out the street. If if we didn't get out the street, that they were going to arrest us. So we didn't get out the street, and a van load of us did go to jail.
Wow.
They didn't keep us, but we went down to one police plaza where, coincidentally, tomorrow I will be going back down there to trying to get the officer that actually murdered my son. His trial starts tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And I'll be down there, and I'm asking people in New York to pack the courts. The court is a little small courtroom, but the yard, we asking people to stand in solidarity in the yard that one police plaza occupied, so that they know we're there, we mean business. We're trying to get Officer Pantaleo, along with 12 other officers, fired for the misconduct and the abuse that they put on my son that day.
And what I want you to say though, I want you to say the officer's name again, as well as the other officers, and also the date that he'll be held in court for what he has done.
Yes, Officer Pantaleo will be facing departmental charges at one police plaza on May 13th, which is tomorrow, at one police plaza at 10 a.m. in the morning. And they're only charging Officer Pantaleo, but there was actually 12 other officers involved. And we're trying to shed light on that so that they can be disciplined also.
All right, and I have a few questions just on police brutality as well as our president. So with our president now, President Trump, do you feel like he, I guess, antagonized or I guess increased the hate within our nation?
Well, we know that the hate was already there. We know that this has been going on for centuries.
Absolutely.
But with social media, it's lit up.
Oh, man.
It was so isolated before. President Trump, he's only bringing his mouth into it where he could tell people to disrespect us more than what they have been disrespecting us and co-signing. But it's our neighborhoods. See, he doesn't control what actually happens in our neighborhoods, So we have to take that narrative and we have to take up the fight and say, hey, we're going to try to get better policing. We're going to get people who stands for us. We're going to try to get better community relations. Because if we did that as a people, we wouldn't have to worry about President Trump that much.
We wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
So how important is voting, since you were talking about, how important is voting to you?
Voting is number one. Voting is our number one weapon.
Local voting, right?
Yes, all voting is our number one weapon. Because without voting, we can't complain. We'll say, oh, it doesn't matter who gets in, but it does matter. It matters for your school boards, who controls that. And if we know who's controlling, if we know the person's track record, and we say, get together and galvanize with our communities, and we're going to vote for this person because they'll be good with our children, they'll be good with who's controlling the school narrative. We control that, and we don't even realize that we're in control of that. But once you let it go, the people who do vote, they are in control now. We know there are some people that go out and vote every election, and they know what they're voting for. They've done their homework. They know what the people who's running, they know what they have done and what they haven't done. So if they want to keep a person in that's not really doing a good job, all they have to do is wait on the vote and say, oh, well, they're not coming out to vote anyway. We got this. We can't let them feel like they got a slam dunk.
Absolutely.
And I think people need to understand that they work for us.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Every politician, every congressman and woman, they work for us. So I feel like voting, whether locally, all the way up until, you know, executive branch with the
Yes,
residents.
yes.
I feel like we need to take that seriously.
Very.
And we need to also, you know, go to town hall meetings.
Absolutely.
And, you know, community hearings and things of that nature.
And that's what people don't do, especially people of color. They're very guilty of not going there. You don't realize when people go to community board meetings, they can get a bus stop moved.
Yep.
They can get streets paved. They can do a lot of things that we just don't do or we don't know about because we do not go to these meetings. I know in the neighborhood I used to live in, we had a local bus that ran like 2 blocks from where we lived that ran up and down throughout the Brooklyn area. What happened is the people, the Caucasians lived over on that block, and they went to community board meetings and asked them to remove the bus stops from there because they didn't want people leaning up against their gates waiting for the bus.
Wow.
We had no way of knowing about this because we didn't go to the meetings. If we had gone to the meetings, we could have stopped this because we could tell them who do they think they are. And I mean, this bus stop has been here forever. And why should you change it and inconvenience the people in this neighborhood?
And also to touch back on Eric Garner and the whole situation, how do you feel about how they paint African Americans towards, you know, compared to a Caucasian, when a Caucasian has done probably the same crime or something worse, but they paint them as, a child who was mentally unstable.
We have different names.
Absolutely.
They are mentally ill and we are thugs.
Yep. So how do you feel about that?
Yes, exactly.
Well, this is why we have to change the narrative.
Absolutely, we have
And we can't just talk to each other because that's just preaching to the choir. That's why we have to go to our lawmakers and we have to get people in there who will stand up for us, who will stand with us and know who will stand with us, you know. And the only way we're going to do that, we got to do our homework.
Absolutely.
And we have to know the track record of the people who we are putting into power.
It's really great to have you here. You know, just seeing your son untimely death on social media and then nationwide.
Yeah,
it's worldwide.
It's worldwide.
Yeah, and it really hit home. But also, like, did you feel, as you watched other mothers before you deal with the same situation, did you ever feel like, oh man, like, I pray to God that never happens to me, and then now you see that and you're in, you're part of that story.
I'm still part of that story, and you should read my book. My tragedy does not start with Eric. I just want you to read the book, and then you can see how my story unfolds.
I do want to say this. You guys are a strong family. I remember watching your interview and watching your granddaughter's interview on the. It makes you.
Because Erica, we lost her 2 days before New Year's last year.
Wow, and she was doing a lot of great things as well.
Yes, she was.
As well, so
she
we definitely want to honor her.
She fought hard for her father. I think that's how she developed that heart condition. She fought very hard. She was the only sibling that fought for her father.
Wow, and wow. And let's take it back. I remember you saying that Hillary Clinton was she was there during the march. How did she impact you? How was she even in the whole mix of things?
Well, she always supported us. She had a private meeting with me and like about 13 other mothers in Chicago. She asked if we would come and meet with her. She sent her team out to search me out. I don't know exactly how she got the other, but I agreed to come to Chicago, and it was a private meeting. It was a meeting where she sat down with us and she took her own notes. She didn't have her staff write down what we were saying. And she had us tell our story and say what would we like her to do if she became president? What would we like her to do for us? And with everyone giving their own opinion, she was writing all this down. So when she really started campaigning, she asked several of us to come on the campaign trail with her, which we did. and we went throughout the states to try to get her elected. And she treated us very well on those trips. She was so personable that she remembered. Now that lady has a photostatic memory, because she could remember everything you said. Although I know she was a lawyer, but she could remember everything you ever said to her.
Wow.
And when she would go to the churches to speak, she would do her homework, because she would look up the churches and she would know the background. She'll know who's founded the church. And, you know, it wasn't like she just go there and say, hey, vote for me.
So she was actually putting in that work.
Yes.
I do want you to, since we're on the topic of fingerprint as well, I want you to go ahead, because I do in the back. She did write it forward. Go ahead and tell us about your book.
Yeah, well, my book, the name of it is This Stops Today. And we know that the police killings hasn't stopped today. But we as mothers, as mothers who have lost our children senselessly, we are not just going to sit in a corner and cry anymore. We are going to do something about it. Whatever it is, we're going to lift up our children's name and let people know exactly who they were, not who the media portrayed them to be.
And I think that's a big part of when an African American, predominantly males, are gunned down by police. I feel like we need to make sure that their name stands as how the family and friends saw them.
Exactly.
And not how the media portrays
Because
them.
I do feel, because it's weird. Every time like a black male get murdered by the police, the first thing that they do is they bring up their criminal background.
They do it all the time, bring the criminal background, but the police, what about his background?
Absolutely.
What about how many misconduct events that he has been through? You never hear that. And when these children get killed, and now when the police officers, the PBA, they already done figured out that, oh, this might have been a botched killing or a killing that shouldn't have taken place. They immediately start taking donations for the officer. What about the family?
Absolutely.
That has just suffered this loss? The police department does nothing in regards to that.
And also with social media, how do you feel social media can help, I guess, when we see an attack like such as Eric Garner or Oscar Grant? How do you feel social media plays?
Well, I think, okay, when you're filming, just make sure that you're not in the way of those police officers, because no telling what they may do to you. But if you can find a safe place to get back and film what you see,
that's great.
That's what you should do. That's what we practice in New York. We have a team called Cop Watch.
Cop Watch?
Cop Watch.
Cop Watch. Okay.
And they train them how to video. They train them how to de-escalate situations where they see where the cop may be called on this. And we know when the police are called, we don't know how a black person is going to walk away from this stop. The person who called the police sometime may be murdered. So we try to do all these different things and put people in training of what to do if you see a situation that's not too serious and may not warrant calling the cops. We call it like taking our communities back.
Absolutely.
And controlling our communities.
I think it's very inspiring what you're doing, especially fighting back.
Yes.
We appreciate that. We need that.
Yes. We have to fight. I'm in this fight for the long run. We have so many other mothers that's in the fight too. And sometimes myself and other mothers, we inspire them, because all mothers are not at the same level. Some mothers never got a day in social media, a day in court, one line in the newspaper. So that's why at my event, I invite all mothers who have suffered. It doesn't matter whether it was police brutality, whether it was street brutality, whether it was violence in the home, because the hurt is the same, no matter how you lose your child.
And for as we see throughout the nation, even worldwide, specifically with America's policing, how do you feel? Do you feel that the police in America need better training, or do we need a better oversight for police officers in the United States?
Well, when police are trained, they're supposed to be trained. It should be professional training. I don't think it's the training that's killing our children. I think it's the police officers who have their own training.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So no matter what the training is, if you're there to do your job, then all these mishaps will not happen.
Absolutely.
But if you're there on your own agenda, it's sometimes just like a thrill kill for you to take out our sons and daughters. And because it's killing a generation. Every time you kill one young man, that may disable him to have had 3 children. I just averaged out 3 children. If each one of them, if we're losing 3 children to each young man that's killed, that's killing off a generation.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that there's an attack on black men or the black race itself within America?
It is. We've been on attack ever since slavery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not anything new. The system is working as designed.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I hear that I hear that so much. Yeah.
It's just that it's against us.
Absolutely.
So that's why we gotta stand up and we gotta take a stand.
Together.
Yes.
We gotta stop the hate on each other too.
That's right. They hate on each other. And see, and they emphasize us, which there is a lot of hate on each other. But they talk about black on black crime. There's white on white crime.
Absolutely.
Chinese on Chinese
Absolutely.
crime. You kill people where you live.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
But they don't talk about it.
They don't. And before we go, this is Free Game Radio Podcast. And what we do when we interview anyone, we have a thing called Free Game Message. And the message could be about whether it's finance or something that's going to help you physically, mentally. Just what is your free game message to our listeners and to the people around the world?
Well, my free game message would be help us, the mothers, to support us in what we do. Mm-hmm. Just like I'm having an event that's coming up July 12th to the 14th. And I am looking for funding. So if you can fund me in any way, anything, we're asking different organizations to fund one mother to come to my event. And to fund one mother to come to my event for that weekend would cost approximately $1,500. But if you don't have the $1,500, we will accept whatever that you have. And you can donate to the GarnerWayFoundation.org.
Can you say that again?
GarnerWayFoundation.org. And we would appreciate anything from $1 up.
Oh,
and also the book.
And also make sure you got.
And where can we purchase the book?
Oh yes, where can.
The book can be purchased on Amazon. It can be purchased at Barnes & Noble, and it's at several bookstores. And I go do book signings around the nation, and if I'm invited, I can come and do a book signing in your community.
Thank you, Ms. Gwen
Oh,
Carr.
wow, thank you so much.
I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. No one can stop me. I'm the best ever.
You are watching a master at work.